Okay guys, welcome to another video. This time I'm going to do one of the Lego Eiffel Tower. So obviously as you're looking through my videos, if you bother to see, you'll see that I do collect a lot of different things. And I do happen to have quite a bit of a Lego collection as well. And so I wanted to sort of, again, change things up and keep things interesting and showcase this thing. It's pretty amazing because I can't really get close to it. It's huge. And so I'm trying to back up as much as I can to just show you how tall this thing is. And then of course, as a side product, you can see my super messy kitchen counter. But there you go, what are you gonna do? So this is the Lego Eiffel Tower. It's one of the original ones. It's huge. It was released over 10 years ago, actually in 2007. And it has over 3,400 pieces. I think it's 3428, if you want to be very specific. This was discontinued quite a while ago, and it goes on eBay for quite a pretty penny. I think used with the instruction booklet, you can go up to $600-700 actually, believe it or not. And brand new ones can run close to 1,000. I don't follow Lego secondary market very closely anymore, but that's the last I checked. So what makes this special? Well, it is one of their tallest pieces ever. I think it stands over 40 inches in height. And it is a pretty awesome Lego representation of the Eiffel Tower, which is of course one of the world's most famous landmarks. So this view sort of gives you the far away look, and now I'm going to try to get a little bit closer so you can appreciate some of the detail and what this is like. I actually have it on a custom piece of cardboard, and we'll go into why that is when I go over some of the pros and cons. That is one of the cons. So here you are. We go up slowly. Got my tippy toes right now, trying to just catch that. Here's the flag. So what's there to say about this piece? This is definitely not a toy. There's nothing to really play with. It's absolutely a display model. One of the pros about it is overwhelming in size. It's a great presence. It really feels like a nice, beautiful Lego scaled miniature of the Eiffel Tower. It's very well designed. But as far as that goes, that's what it is. I mean, it's like a display piece. You know what I mean? Now, there are a few things I can point out. So first of all, it comes in 3 parts, and I'll separate it for you. So with one hand, you take this and just sort of wriggle it a little bit, and this whole thing comes off. So that's part number 1. I'm going to back up so you can see it in relation to the whole thing. So let's get closer. This is the long, slender part. You can take a look at the flag. It's cute. Put my hand behind it. Maybe it'll focus a little bit better. There it goes. And you can see all the different elements. See the rails. So, you know, neat. It's very symmetrical. Pretty much the same all the way around. One of the criticisms of this particular Lego set is that it is a little bit boring. I mean, it's a little bit monochromatic. It's basically dark gray elements, almost all dark gray, in fact. But there's a little bit of a splash, like over here. I don't know if you can appreciate it. You see that little red and yellow on the inside? those are supposed to be cute little representations of people climbing the Eiffel Tower. So red and yellow kind of pops a little bit, and they're going up. And there's a little bit of color elsewhere as well. So yeah, there you go. That's the tower part. And then the second part is the mid-level right here. So I'm going to see if I can do this safely with one hand. Take it apart. There you go. So now that's part two. Those are the three parts: the base, the middle, and the tower, which makes it a little bit more manageable. You absolutely do not want to ever move this thing all put together. That would be a disaster, and would almost guarantee it to fall and spill. And here, there's a little bit of color as well. If you see the little yellow down there, and I think if I turn it around, there might be another one on the other side. Is there? Yeah, they're here. There it is. That's red. So these things here represent the trolleys or elevators that go up the Eiffel Tower. Now, I've never had the pleasure of being to Paris, France myself. Never been to the Eiffel Tower. Hope to one day do that. So I've never been to the real thing, so I don't know exactly how you get up there. Those of you who have would know what I'm talking about with these model representations. But apparently there are elevators, and then further up, you can walk up. So there's a yellow one and there's a red one, in keeping with the yellow and the red figurines here. So one thing that's really good about this piece is it's very sturdy here and here. As you can see, I was able to actually take it apart with just one hand. And you can kind of get a certain perspective at the elements here to make it very sturdy as well here. And then finally, at the base, you have this. There you go here. You can see more escalators, trolleys, whatever you want to call these elevators, or trolley cars here, and over here you can see the yellow over here ready to go. So that's the base, and they have the green around here. So that's the Eiffel Tower. It's a pretty rare piece, again, long sold out. Lego has been reissuing some of their old masterpieces. Like I think they reissued the Taj Mahal with this. That's basically a complete reissue. I think they added one little tiny piece or something like that, would change the color of one piece. They haven't done it with Eiffel Tower yet. They did re-release the Millennium Falcon, which was one of their big grails. And they made that a lot different, added quite a bit to it. There's rumors that maybe do the same to the Imperial Star Destroyer, which does, decrease the value, obviously, of the old pieces, but I don't mind. I bought these a long time ago. I built them. I'm going to make YouTube videos of them, and I've had my fun with them. Now, what are some of the downsides to this? Let's list them. Even though I love this piece, I'm going to be taking it apart, and so I do want to give kind of a fair review of this. The first is it's just too big. It's very, very tall. There's only so much space for you to be able to display it, and even though it's very so very tall and upright, the footprint is not insignificant. You can see that I had to cut quite a big piece of cardboard to be able to put the base, because in order for it to be steady, obviously the base has to be pretty big. So number one, you got to have quite a bit of space to display it. That's one of the reasons I'm taking it apart, is I've run out of space, sadly. Now I've displayed this for the better part of 3-4 years, maybe 5 years actually. So I've certainly had my enjoyment of it. There's been certainly a lot of people who's come over and appreciated it. And now that I'm making hopefully a YouTube video, they'll get to see that on YouTube. Because I won't have it in my house anymore. It'll be broken down and put in a little tiny box, basically. So number one, it has quite the footprint, quite a bit to display. Number two, it's a little bit of a boring build. So when you review Legos, you talk about Legos, there's a couple things that most Lego aficionados or AFOLs, adult fans of Lego, talk about. And one of them is, how interesting is the build? That's number one. Number two, they do talk about playability, right? How fun is this set to play with? So we already got into the fact that this set has basically zero playability. It is essentially a Lego model to be displayed. In terms of the build, I won't lie, it is a very monotonous build because part of the Eiffel Tower is its symmetry. And part of building a Lego Eiffel Tower that's not going to collapse in on itself is the importance of these architectural and structural elements to keep everything steady. And so symmetry is the name of the game, and you are basically doing the same thing over and over and over again while you're building it. And at 3,400 pieces, it is not an insignificant build. It's a long, long build, even if it is symmetrical. And so it can get kind of boring and monotonous doing that. Now, I'm an adult, and so I don't mind that because I know that the end result is going to be amazing, and it was, but that is something that has to be mentioned, okay? Monotony is sort of the theme of the cons related to this. In addition to the monotony of the build is the monotony of the pieces. Over 90% of the pieces, maybe 95%, are basically this dark bluish gray color. You have obviously the green here, maybe meant to symbolize grass. You have some of these tan elements. Okay, you know, that's nice. It gives it a little bit of splash of color. But once you get up to the middle here, and then you move over to the spire, it's all, you know, it's all dark bluish gray, with the only exception being the flag, and then again, the trolley cars and the little people climbing up. So there's that, okay? Number two, the base is too big for them to give you a gigantic base plate. And so what they did was they gave you 4 of their, I think, 32 by 32 base plates. So there's 4 of these guys together. And so the 4 of them have to be put together, and they're basically locked in with these tiles right here, these large tiles. And then they put this little tiny, 2 by 4 to sort of lock these two. So this is not a very sturdy base, meaning that if you put it on a table like this and you build up, that's fine, okay? It's perfect. But God help you if you're trying to move it. Like if you try to move this without this cardboard underneath, this thing would basically fall apart. There would be a pretty good chance that it would not hold even the weight of 1/3 of the structure. So there is that. And I don't think that this is something that can be easily rectified. What are we gonna do? Ask for a 64 by 64 base plate? That's ridiculous. And so it's sort of a unfortunate limitation, essentially, of the build. But that also should be mentioned. It is very fragile as far as that goes. Other than that, there's not a whole lot to it. It's very enjoyable, and one of the nice things about Lego is that they're almost indestructible. So none of the pieces can really be harmed or broken, short of catastrophic force. And you can go back and revisit it. You can build it, and you can take it apart. You can put it away for a couple of years. And if the mood strikes you, or if your kids grow older and they're in the mood, you can roll it right on out, and they can build it again. This took me, well, okay, I should say that it should take about, I would say, 12, 13 hours if you're not in a hurry. I tend not to be a super fast builder myself. I like to take my time, enjoy it, take breaks. So I did this probably over a couple of days. Now, that's the way it should work, but in reality, building this was a little bit tortuous for me, and I'll explain why as I put everything together again for the final shot. Here we go. So it just kind of locks in, and it locks in pretty nicely, pretty easily. Again, I've demonstrated because I did it with one hand. And this thing here, put up just like that. And just sort of wiggle it, and it just pops right in. So that's one of the nice things about it. It does come together and come apart very beautifully, very easily. Again, just with one hand, you're able to do that. So, what happened to me? Well, obviously, I'm not going to buy this thing for $1,000, a brand new sealed in box, because part of the reason I bought it is because I love Legos. I'm going to build it, so I'm not going to spend, literally a $500 premium on something that I'm going to open the box and destroy the value by building it. So I bought it used. And I bought it from a nice guy on the East Coast who actually was selling his used copy of both the Eiffel Tower and the Taj Mahal. I'll put up another review I did with my daughter on the Taj Mahal, and I'll put it up a little bit later so you get a chance to see that. So these are two of the biggest sets that Lego has ever put out at the time when I bought it many, many years ago. So I bought it as a package deal, and then he mailed it to me all together in their separate bags. And this is where the problem lay. He decided to cheap out a little bit on the packaging, and he decided to put all of these things in sandwich bags, and he overstuffed the sandwich bags. On top of that, he didn't put them in a box with plenty of peanuts and cushioning. He tried to cheap out by putting in like some newspaper or something dumb like that to try to prevent, damage. And so, to make a long story short, when I got the package, there was a hole in the corner of the brown box. It was really dented, really beaten up. And worst of all, because of the trauma from the shipping, some of those sandwich bags, those little rolls, those big sandwich bags that he used to stuff all the little pieces of the Eiffel Tower and the Taj Mahal have broken. And there were basically a good portion of the pieces had mixed together. So I want you to think about what that meant. We're talking 3,400 pieces for the Eiffel Tower, which at the time was, I think, the 5th largest set ever made. And the Taj Mahal is close to 6,000 pieces, the largest set at that time ever made. And now you've mixed the pieces of the two together because of the accident and because of the hole in the corner of the box. A couple of those elements and pieces were probably lost during shipping. I want you to think about trying to rebuild the Eiffel Tower and the Taj Mahal under those circumstances, which I did do. Now, luckily, one of the negatives that I talk about with this Eiffel Tower came to help me. The Taj Mahal, as you can imagine, is actually mostly white, and this is dark bluish gray. So again, it wasn't too problematic separating the pieces. And I actually managed to build both over the course of a week. It was a very long week because he was very apologetic, obviously. He wanted to replace any pieces that happened to be missing. He was willing to pay quite a bit for it, special order, the whole 9 yards. But how can I tell him what pieces are missing if I haven't built it? So what should have been this really wonderful, leisurely exercise, an enjoyable exercise in building these amazing Lego sets, turned into a grind where I basically put together 10,000 pieces of Lego in less than a week to be able to identify the missing elements so that he could replace them for me. So there's that little nightmare of a story. I'll never forget that. And I doubt that many Lego aficionados who see this video will have a similar story to something so horrific as as basically the biggest and maybe the 4th biggest set, essentially having them mixed together into one big, gigantic pile while missing random elements from a hole in the corner of the box. But I persevered. Both sets are perfect and complete. There were elements that were missing, and then we backfilled those with the original elements. So that's good. So here we go. This is the last view of the Eiffel Tower before I start breaking it down. I'll miss you, but I've enjoyed you for at least 5 years, and you take up way too much space. So I'm gonna break you down, and maybe I'll rebuild you, or one of my kids will rebuild you when they're old enough to appreciate you. Thanks again for watching, and until next time, take care.